All right, today we're diving into a really interesting Java framework, one that kind of flips the script on how we think about building web UIs. It's called the WebFirm framework, but you'll usually just see it called wffweb.
Yeah, if you're a Java developer, this question probably hits pretty close to home, right? You've got your backend dialed in, but then you have to step into this whole other world of front-end tools and languages just to build a decent UI. It can be a real headache.
So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the basic problem, then get into what wffweb actually is, its wild MLTP architecture, and, of course, when you should and shouldn't use it. Let's jump in.
Okay, so let's just set the stage here. Modern web applications demand these really rich, interactive experiences. And, for developers who live and breathe server-side Java, that's a huge challenge.
You know how it is. You end up with these two completely separate projects. You have your powerful, secure Java backend over here, and then a totally different front-end codebase over there, built with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. And that split means you're writing APIs, you're managing state in two different places. It's just a lot of complexity just to get things to show up in the browser.
So what if you could build that entire user interface, the logic, the components, everything, without ever leaving your Java code? Well, that is the big idea behind wffweb. So at its core, wffweb is a Java framework that lets you write and control the UI entirely from the server. It uses WebSockets to maintain a live connection, so any change you make in your Java code on the server gets pushed to the browser instantly.
Honestly, this is the best way to wrap your head around it. If you've ever built a classic Java Swing or AWT desktop app, the whole approach will feel super familiar. You create your UI components as Java objects, you attach event listeners to them, but instead of rendering a desktop window, the framework renders it all as HTML in a web browser.
Let's dig into the core principles for a second. The two things that really jump out are security and performance. By keeping all your UI logic on the server, you're not exposing any of it to the client, which is a huge security win. And because it builds the UI in memory and avoids reading templates from a disk, it is crazy fast.
Now, to pull all this off, wffweb had to do something pretty radical. It basically throws the classic model view controller pattern out the window and replaces it with its own unique architecture.
And the difference is just stark. With MVC, you're always busy writing controllers and REST APIs to bridge the gap between your view and your model. With wffweb's MLTP approach, you just focus on your data model and what they call the logical template, and the framework just handles the rest automatically.
So what the heck is MLTP? It stands for Model Logical Template Push. The logical template is basically your UI structure, but you write it as Java objects. And the push, well, that's the magic. That's the framework automatically syncing any change on the server with what the user sees in their browser.
And this right here is the absolute game changer. Just let this sink in for a moment. You do not write REST endpoints for your UI. You don't make API calls. You literally change a property on a Java object on the server, and the element in the browser just changes. It's a completely different way to work. Okay, so this all sounds incredibly powerful, but it's not a silver bullet for every single project out there. Let's talk about where this framework really shines.
The creators are pretty clear that wffweb was built for applications where security and real-time data are the absolute top priorities. So think about things like banking portals, financial trading platforms, or live analytics dashboards. Because none of the UI logic is ever sent to the client, you get a massive security advantage right out of the box.
So here's the bottom line. If you're building a stateful, secure, single-page app that needs to update in real time based on server events, wffweb is a really strong contender. But if you're just putting together a simple static website, a blog or a brochure site, a traditional MVC framework is probably going to be a simpler and better choice.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Server-controlled UI sounds a little old school, but you'd be wrong. www is very much a modern framework, and it's evolving all the time.
You can see how much it's grown over the years. It started out with just basic HTML generation. Then version 2 brought in WebSockets, and that was the huge turning point. And now the latest version, version 12, is another massive leap forward, built to take full advantage of the modern Java platform.
And version 12 is just packed with modern features. It fully supports Java's new virtual threads for incredible concurrency. You can compile it down to a native image with GraalVM for near-instant startup times. It even has built-in routing for single-page apps and token-based authentication. This is a serious enterprise-grade toolkit.
The way it handles scaling is especially cool.
Because it manages its own sessions, you can scale it out horizontally so easily. You just deploy your app on a bunch of different servers, stick a load balancer in front of them, and that's it. You're done. No need to mess around with sticky sessions, which is usually a major pain for stateful apps.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. It's pretty clear that wffweb offers a fundamentally different way to build web UIs with Java.
So, let's be real, like any technology, there are trade-offs. The pros are huge. You get incredible security, amazing performance, and total control all from your Java code. But there are some things to consider. It's a big mental shift from MVC. And some of the older code examples use a coding style that can get a little wordy if you're not careful. Plus, being a more niche framework, its ecosystem isn't as big as something like Spring or React.
Still, the creators are really confident in what they've built. This quote from their docs says it all really. It's a bold claim for sure, but it shows you the kind of power and flexibility they're aiming for.
And that leaves us with this big question. In a world completely dominated by client-side JavaScript, wffweb makes a really compelling argument for a server-first model, especially in those cases where security and real-time speed are everything. It's a different way of thinking, no doubt, but for the right project, it just might be the perfect solution. Thanks for tuning in.